Hello, Scream Demons, and welcome to the Screams from the Basement podcast with Sam and Casey. I am one of your creepy co-hosts. I am Casey the Killer Kelderman.
And I'm Sam the Damned, and let's get screaming.
Returning to the basement is special guest Richard T. Wilson, who was last here 1 year ago discussing his graphic novel Hemlock Avenue. Richard returns to the show with his latest in the Halloween Girl series, Halloween Girl 3 Gods and Monsters.
Halloween Girl is an award winning graphic novel series about Charlotte and Poe, two ghosts in the in between battling evil in the form of the Hollow, a cult from hell. Welcome back to the show, Richard T. Wilson.
I want to throw it back to the original book, Halloween Girl, the
Okay.
first one, and specifically talk about the two characters that are our introduction to the world that you build,
Right.
Charlotte and Poe. I want to know where did those characters come from, and what was your inspiration for the two of them as individuals, and then their relationship that they have with one another.
Well, it's weird because it happened very organically. I mean, the whole thing with Charlotte and the whole Halloween Girl thing, because you guys know from the last time, I mean, I used to do educational things with my company, Outreach Arts, and all that. And then when both my parents passed away, I wanted to make a movie. And so to get this off my chest, we actually had been doing really well, and we had the money. My wife said, "Go for it." I mean, if it's going to help, go for it. Because they only died. They both died 6 months apart from each other, and it was a lot. So it started that way. Charlotte, she's basically me working through all my. I didn't have a great relationship with my parents. I just didn't, and so it started to work through that. That's what was the beginning of that. So she's me, in my James Dean Rebel Without a Cause era, and then what happened was when I couldn't stay away from the character, and so I said, I'm going to do a web series. We did Under the Flowers, and that's where Poe comes from. Now she only pops up here and there in the first Under the Flowers. By the way, played by Lauren Lavera, who became Terrifier star. That was actually her first film.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she did Under the Flowers with us the first one, and was in the beginning of the second one, because by that time she was starting to rock it off. And she did a great job. Um, but when I saw the two of them together, the characters, I even said to Lauren and Catherine Kustra, who played the Halloween Girl in the movies, I said, I've got this idea where it's the two of you. You know what I mean? Like, just they had a similar vibe as people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were really funny, but they could also be really arch, but they could also be, cry at the drop of a hat, especially Catherine. You know what I mean? And so a lot of it came from there, and I saw a lot of myself in them. So, I mean, Poe and Charlotte are, in the end, it's me cut in half. You know, Charlotte's got the the bleeding heart, and then Poe's like, yeah, okay, me too, but do we really have to do this? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, do we have
Yeah.
to?
Every
And
one of us has an empathetic blonde and then a kind of
right,
like snarly goth side, right?
right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and Poe's also been around forever, so she's got to be the big sister. And I did like how Shad. I didn't tell him to do anything. I just said go. I don't like to tell, very, very rarely give any kind of direction, except if something seems to be going in the wrong direction. I'll say, let's go back and do this. He changed her hairstyle, made her look younger, and it worked because it was so much easier to get the big sister, little sister kind of, you know what I mean, thing going on there. And I don't know. I just love what he did. And he also got incredibly ill during that. He was hospitalized as well for about a month with it's going right out of my head, but it was a very serious condition that he had. Um his brain was had what do you call it? Just had blown. Oh, I can't think of the words. I'm sorry, but he was very very seriously sick, so it wasn't meant to come out in last Halloween. So it came out now. But it really, that's how I came up with the two of them, and we went in a different direction because we lost Poe. So Poe had to become somebody else, and we only did like we did three seasons or whatever of Under the Flowers, but yeah, I mean, I think they basically are. There was a girl I was a good friend with in the 80s, going to school with Marisa Mastascusa. She's cringing right now. Um, so we were like goth before there was goth, before they had come up with the word, because literally we're a couple years away from goth even being called that. But we were all like, hey, I read Johnny Rotten goes into like, cemeteries and shit, like that's a cool thing. So Marisa and I are like, yeah, it's because we used to go into Philly. We take the train, go to South Street, and all that and it's all punked out back then, and it's glorious, glorious time. I mean, it really was, Mohawks up to here. And so we snuck into the historical cemetery where like Ben Franklin's buried and stuff. You know what I mean? Because there was just a little wedge you could get through, and we were so skinny. We were just like, so we got in, and then we're in, and I've never forgotten that was one of those like, we're not supposed to be here, and we're around dead people in a cemetery. We're cool. You know what I mean? But it's like, but no, and then of course, a couple years later, you got Bauhaus and The Cure and everything else. So but we were doing that crap. You know what I mean? We were those kids, getting the weird records and listening to them after school. She was, so sometimes I think about that too, as Charlotte and Poe, the two of us, yeah, and very artistic, incredibly intelligent, just, great artist too, wonderful artist she was. She's not dead. Um, but anyway, I became very good friends with her oldest brother. So we've remained, I haven't seen much of Marisa, but her brother's amazing, so, but that's how it came about. That's a long answer.
Yeah. I
Sorry.
mean, so in book one, you had multiple artists work on book one.
To get
You
it
had
done, just to
yeah,
get it done, really.
right. So you're working solely with Shahed?
Triad. Mm-hmm.
Shahed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're working solely with Shahed on this. What was that like, going from multiple, because Hemlock Avenue also had multiple,
And he was in that
um
too.
and he was
It
in
was him
that.
and Tetra Vaughn that swapped stories in Hemlock. Now, Volume Two of the Halloween Girl is her
Hmm.
origin story, and that's Eleanor Garofalo, and she does that whole thing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's kind of like just thrown in between, because the people were saying, who had read it, were like, hey, I don't know where does she come from? What's her story? What's and I thought, well, I ought to do something. And so I
Yeah.
took the film script, and I had already opened it up a couple times, kind of experimenting, and then I went back and really opened it up. And she was the perfect artist for that, because it's it's such a I mean, the main characters in that are two women, her and her mother, you know, and her
Yeah.
son, obviously. But it's like the dynamic is the push and pull between, you know, hey mom, you really fucked me over, and you're lying to this kid, you know, telling him that he's your son and all this bullshit. You moved to a different town. I mean, it was just, when we did the film again. I said the other day, I was in an interview talking about that, and I was still in educational film mode. I myself would make a different looking film now, but I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. That was one of the greatest experiences I ever had making that film. Just Halloween Girl was one of the, in general, anything to do with has been the greatest experience for me
Yeah.
creatively. And so I can't think of a time where I'm not going to do something with those characters. So
Yeah. Well, the love of it is so evident. It's very like, You can tell that this is a series that comes from the heart. So what was it like kind of building that up, building that lore, and just the world? You know, you've got the hollow, the in between. You're playing with heaven and hell, but you're kind of making it your own thing.
You know what, Sam? The thing was, it was like this was stuff that was sitting there forever. You know, you gotta just have to remember, I'm spending like 20 years writing as my job, writing for other people, writing for nonprofits and all that kind of stuff. Now, I put myself into all my work, don't get me wrong, and I love meeting all the kids and trying to take their stories, and I loved it. I'm really proud of it. But I had all this stuff building up the whole time, as far as it was just building and building. When I sat down to write and finally realized, oh, I can do this, because I didn't know I could do it. It all just poured out. And one of the things that really pisses me off is people who don't make a fucking decision. Okay? Get off the fucking line, dude, and make a decision. I can't stand this idea of everybody being fucking Switzerland, because that's the reason. That's evil all in and of itself. When you don't, I'm not, no, I'm above all this. We're all in it. We're all in this muck together. And for people who put themselves above it, they're better than this and all this. Those are evil people. So you're already evil. So it wasn't a big jump for them to go, hey, let's go cash in, you know, or whatever. I mean, you know, it's this idea of looking down on people and as separate, and you know what I mean. The life force is being different for them than it is for us. No, it isn't. Shut up. You know what I mean? And so that came very naturally. You know, I was ready to punch somebody in the face, but, you know, by the time I finally sat down and got into it, you know,
Yeah.
I was just thought, you know, I am sick of pious horseshit.
Yeah.
You know, we all get up every day, you know, you know, the only thing that makes us, that separates anybody are their choices. Other than that, we're all in the same box, man.
Yeah.
And so I just can't stand people who think that they're better, they're different. They don't partake, you know. So that's where the hollow comes from. You know, just that kind of cold intellectual who's just so much better than the rest of us. You know, I hate them.
Well, one thing that I love, opposite of hate, one thing that I love that you do here in Halloween Girl 3 is you go into a subgenre of horror that you didn't explore in the first two. You deal with possessed toys,
Oh
evil
yeah.
toys.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it too. Like
Look at this
where,
Chucky doll.
yeah,
Sam's like, yes.
yeah,
Toy horror is a favorite on this show. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like toy.
We love our tiny terrors. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love all that too. You know, I was saying the other day. Do you guys remember that show Wayward Pines that was on a couple years ago?
I have not watched it, but I know of it. Yes.
It's not worth watching except for the first season. They tried to do a second season. It's not very good. The first season is actually really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Matt Dillon was in it, and he was terrific. And in the beginning, just look it up on YouTube as far as the opening credits. And the opening credits, man, the opening credits are this you know, toy train village, and all these great angles, you know, creepy music, and cutting between that and them on fire.
Oh, okay.
And I loved that. I just thought that, I know there's something you can only do in such a surreal way, you know, that you can do with like toys and things like that. And I mean, people always laugh about, you know, Godzilla movies and things with all the little toy tanks and all, but it's surrealism to the nth degree. It's like stuff that it's fairy tale, grown up fairy tale stuff in a sense. You know what I mean? Well, it's not grown up. It's also for little kids. It's mostly. I mean, when I was little, that's what was made for us. You know, but it's the idea of sometimes you see more things happening with these inanimate objects in stories than a person could ever be believed to, you know what I mean? You can put anything on this inanimate object. It could do anything. It could be anything, because when we're kids, they can do anything. We never forget that. So that's why toys are so powerful. You know, I have toys on you can't see it, but I got toys all over my office. I love toys. It's like the Joker. I love toys. You know?
Yeah.
Toys, like, for me, I always have thought, like, toys are like the ultimate vessel for creativity and imagination.
Yes.
Because otherwise they're just a hunk of plastic unless you put something behind them. And no matter
Right.
what toy I see, I'm like, there's something imaginative and creative behind them. And you do that with these toys. They're a vessel for pure evil in this.
Yeah. And they're just typical American,
Toys.
toys. You got a farmer. You got, so that's probably me, sorry. You got a farmer, you've got, cops and homemakers, this, whatever. You know what I mean? And it's just this, typical American, and that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And they all go worship his little tiny wallet-sized picture in the church, which, and all that. And I mean, people, I think one of the things I'm trying to say, and I realize this at kind of like, now it's like 4 years after I wrote it or whatever, but people are looking for excuses to be horrible. And think of these toys as they're looking for an excuse to be horrible and destructive. Again, it's like the Hollow. They intellectualize. They find a good reason. It's not horrible. They give them an inch. You know what I mean? And they'll just take the whole mile and run with it.
Yeah.
And I think and that scene in particular is a favorite of mine, because it's almost like they're making it feels legit for them now.
Yeah.
It's their religion. They're in a church. So let's go kill some people. For the sake of Kevin. And so yeah, I do love, I love things like toys and advertising art or whatever, things where no one's really looking. People aren't really paying attention. And you can look at those things like the back of a matchbook cover or something. Somebody had to draw that and take the time. And because nobody's looking, sometimes they're going kind of off, They're a little strange. It's the art that nobody really, the functional stuff gets overlooked. And people are telling you little stories, and you're, right under your nose, that they can't get out any other way. It's almost like little coded, I'm not going to say messages, but they're like, like movie posters used to be. Movie posters were better than the damn movie.
Yeah.
In the 70s, in the 60s, Christ, they were wonderful.
Yep.
You'd go to see the movie, you'd say, this is not what I paid for. Okay?
That monster's not even in the movie.
It's not even in the goddamn movie.
Yeah.
True.
So,
true.
I'm just saying, they'd say, okay, well, here, the movie's going to be about this. This is what, and so draw this, and that's what they did. And they would, and then the movie came out. It was nothing like the poster, but again, let that, this is a movie poster. It's a functional piece of art, advertising art, and I've got books full of them. I just love looking at them, So I like looking at things like and incorporating things that might be. That's why I love the woods and all that. Nobody's really paying attention. It looks so quiet on the surface, but in your mind and your imagination, you can create whole worlds that are living in those trees. I'm working on I will be working on this, a little short story called The Devil You Know, about this girl that runs away from home. Her parents are bananas, and she winds up thinking she's running into this abandoned house, and she's not. She's running into basically a coven of witches and the devil and the whole kind of thing, So it's like, on the outside, this thing looks like a dilapidated old cottage, you know what I mean, that's been there for years that somebody built, but on the inside, it's like a portal to hell, basically, And so it's it's just the stuff that, you see every day that you take for granted, banal kind of things that, you know, that are the most interesting evil things, I
And
think.
you use that a lot in Halloween Girl 3 particularly. I mean, the hollow are spiders that,
I love spiders,
infiltrate
yeah.
toys. You've got black cats that are carrying out hits essentially from
Yeah, yeah,
hell.
yeah, yeah.
Like you've got a lot of like Halloween spooky imagery that you're
Yeah.
incorporating, but it's like it's a part of the story. It's not just Halloween to be Halloween. So what's it like to incorporate these iconic kind of spooky Halloween images?
Well, I mean, I think I love Halloween so much that to me they're not just like symbols, for Halloween. They're just like, it's like when I was a little kid, I loved everything, all the decorations and the cats and all that, the witches especially. Witches scare the hell out of me, and I told you that last time. I think they scare the living shit out of me. Witches scare me. And and anything to do with satanic, I watch it and I'm scared to death. I'm a grown man and I'm still scared to death of witches and all that. So I try and write about, always try and throw a good witch in there. You know what I mean? But I don't really. It's not conscious. It's just that uh, I think subconsciously I just want to incorporate the things I love about,
Yeah.
like it's total love affair with Halloween, but not like, I'm going like, oh no, come on, we can all play. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just gathering the cats and the witches and all that stuff. Yeah, witches generally, though, are to me unbelievably frightening
Yeah.
because it's like, and they, wait, that's a woman. Oh, that's a mom. Maybe is that a? Oh no, it's not. Oh, there's something in my psyche that is just like so fucked up when it comes to witches. You know, I used to take out. I told you I took. I think I told you this last time but my grandma who lived with us, she was great. Um, she used to take us to the library every summer. We'd take out, our books, or I used to take out the same books, one on bats and one called Witches, Witches, Witches. And she wouldn't want to read me most of the stuff that was in there, so she'd find like one that was a really bad story that was almost like a fairy tale that, like, where the fuck is the witch? Come on, Grandmom, I can see the cover. There's. But I searched for that book for years. I found a copy when we were making Under the Flowers, and it is,
Yeah.
Nice.
but yeah. So it just comes naturally because it's just like anything. If you love, it, just love the holiday so much that I love it
Yeah.
so much that I get like so worried about having a good Halloween. Everyone else is like, is it over?
Yeah.
You know?
I get that. It's weirdly like October's weirdly stressful because I'm like I want to make sure I do this perfect every
Yeah.
year. And there's so much pressure. And it's like I've stopped doing that for New Year's. I've stopped doing that for Christmas. I need to learn to stop doing it for Halloween. Like it's so much more fun when you just are like, well, no, I'm just gonna do what I want and just enjoy the damn
Absolutely.
holiday.
Absolutely. And I try and you try and cram everything in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's like, and we have a great time because we have a terrific development when it comes to just tons of kids. It's just a great place to trick or treat because they, and people come with carloads of kids, from other developments, like, hey, okay, I'll pick you up at the end of the block. And we have a great time. Me, Lynn, and my dear friends, the McElroys, Kevin, who works with me on the book as far as layout and stuff like that. We became friends when he moved in. He became part of Mad Shelley. He did tons of work with me, and he's awesome. He's like Gary Cooper. He's very quiet, but he loves his horror. But he's also like, hey, how are you? So he comes, we hang out, and he brings his candy down. Kim comes down. We all just, have a great time. It's like and it's like all the kids and their parents, and it's the greatest community thing that we have, I would say, in our development because everybody really truly does connect. So it's bigger than Christmas. You know what I mean? Bigger than all. Um, So that's one of the reasons, you know. And Linda loves it too. And Linda's not like into horror, you know. Like Linda will sit with me because she loves me watching Svengoolie, as she'll basically be doing Sudoku or whatever, you know. And you know, but she's not like really into all that. But the community aspect is great. I think that's one of the things I love about Halloween.
Yeah, I
We used
agree,
to have
one
that when
hundred
we were
percent.
kids with Fourth of July. Like we used to do fireworks in our town that I grew up in Laurel Springs. And then the fireworks went away and the community, you know what I mean? We all used to basically connect more, you know, so that's the cool thing about Halloween. But
Yeah.
Well, Richard, I have one last question to
yes,
leave
sir.
us off on, and it's the same one with a twist that we left you off with last time.
Oh, no.
Last time we asked you to pitch your own personal Halloween themed double feature, but this time I'm going to ask. We did. This time I'm going to ask, what would Charlotte and Poe program as a double feature? Each of them are going to pick a movie to watch on a movie night.
Oh.
What movie is Charlotte going to pick? What movie is Poe going to pick?
Oh. I think Poe would pick Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Oh yeah, that's a great thing.
And I said, I don't want to repeat what I said last time.
It was John Carpenter's Halloween and the Innocents, is
Yeah,
what
see,
you
I
said
don't want to
last
say
time.
Innocence
Yep.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Charlotte would go with The Bride of Frankenstein. Because there's so many fun things in there, and you know what I mean. That's also one of my top 5 favorites of all time because it's funny.
It's amazing.
We got Una O'Connor, and that's enough. Does the world need anything more other than Una O'Connor?
Oh
Yeah.
God,
I don't think so.
Yeah, she's incredible. She's the best. She's the best part of The Invisible Man, which is a movie that
Yes.
I love.
Oh, that's another movie I
in,
love.
Like,
James Whale is genius.
Yeah.
And Una O'Connor's like, every time I see her, it's like she's like a family member. You know what I mean? She
Yeah.
reminds me of my mother's family with the giant eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my grandmother was a first generation American, so we've got all that, all those customs and all that stuff. So every time I see her, I'm like, she's probably an aunt. So anyway, this has been great talking to you guys. I don't want to, so I hope I answered all the questions correctly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This has been a great conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been more. It's been even more than what I think we anticipated.
Oh,
and I
cool.
love that. Yeah.
I gotta give a plug. 2 things. New Media Film Festival in LA. We won for the Halloween Girl book. They have been incredibly supportive, and who knows? Maybe someday in outer space we'll wind up with a pilot somewhere someday. But we definitely, they're a great festival, and look for an article on the Halloween Girl in Room Work this Halloween.
Yeah.
Nice.
Love
Awesome.
that magazine.
Room
Yeah.
work,
Can't
yeah.
wait to check that out.
Favorite. So I talked to Pedro the other day. I was like, couldn't believe it. And it was like, that's, so I'm really excited about that.
That's
So
fantastic.
my commercials are done.
And
No, I have one more commercial
yeah.
we need you to
You
throw
have another
out.
commercial?
Yeah, for you. Where can people find the book?
Oh,
it's
anywhere.
out. It's out now as soon as
And
this episode
honest
is
to
out.
God, anywhere, but I would suggest going to Amazon because they've got all these great prices now. You know what I mean? And we've been selling a lot for this run on a lot of the books over at Amazon, and I think they're picking up on that, and they're putting on sales and all that. So the book's doing pretty well.
Nice.
And but I would go to Amazon, or you can go to Barnes and Noble, but you have to order it online. It's not sitting in a comic shop or anything like that. I'm sure we could have another discussion about Diamond and the distribution issue some other day. But I'm glad I never got involved in all that stuff. So they're just in they're on in almost a ton of online stores, small, big, Walmart, everywhere.
Heck
So
yeah.
anywhere, and my site, rtwfilms.com. The guy who doesn't make films anymore. So, but
Hey, awesome, Richard. Thank you so much for
thank
joining
you guys.
the show again.
It's always
Thanks
a pleasure.
for sharing.
Sam Casey, I love talking to you guys. So I mean, again, all good things. You have a great show.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal: providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.